Good evening, welcome to the Professor Maima Show. Hope you are doing well wherever watching me from around the world. Please subscribe, share, and like this video. So today I want to talk about how Africa has a big gap, how Africa has been left behind in terms of technology. So what am I talking about? We have artificial intelligence. We have things called blockchains. We have things called digital learning or online learning. We have things called robots? Isn't it robots? Hmm? So who has left Africa behind? Africa has been left behind. Africa has been left behind by the so-called developed countries. Here I'm talking of America, Europe, and the Asian tigers. South Korea, Thailand, Singapore, you name them. And remember, these countries at independence were at par with Africa, the so-called Asian tigers, also Thailand, South Korea. And I always repeat this story. Kenya at independence gave South Korea some small money, some loan. Because what the British had done also in East Africa especially, they had built the railway, which was very strong in terms of transportation of people and goods. They had set up agriculture, like tea, coffee, sugarcane. So these things, after we got our independence, Kenya also, they helped to stabilize our economy. Young Gen Zs, when I was growing up, we had the cash crops in our head. Tea, coffee, sugarcane, you understand? So it was just a matter of adding value on them and industrializing them. The railway network that was passing across East Africa should have been expanded to cover the whole of the East Africa, also Kenya. Africa should have built more rail networks to cover the whole of Africa. Imagine a rail network covering the whole of Africa, superhighways across Africa, one army, strong army that can ensure that Africa is not attacked by other countries. We defend our armies. We have a common security, strong security with an African army that has a navy, has everything. We align ourselves with the BRICS. They help us with big weapons. They help us with the marine to protect our waters. No one can bully us. You see, like India, no one can go to joke around India. They have their own marine. They have their own even submarines. Russia would have helped us to build their own submarines with very strong weapons so that countries cannot just come and joke around. That's what I'm talking about. Africa versus technology. In fact, let me put it this way. Africa versus robots, because today I want to concentrate on robots. So now, here in Africa, you know that they were very behind in those areas I've talked about: artificial intelligence, digital learning, robots, blockchains. So when it comes to robots, the so-called developed countries, let's say America and Europe, they're using robots in very many areas, isn't it? Hospitality, medical care, security. So let's go back and say, let's start with what Africa is good at: agriculture. Can robots be used in agriculture here in Africa? Yes. And the reason I say so, the so-called developed countries, they're using a lot of automation in value addition in industries, isn't it? So imagine Africa in their industries, they do automation. Those are like robots also. They use machines in planting, in harvesting. Now, when it comes to the value addition chain, they also use robots, isn't it? Now, what is the human factor? The human factor in Africa will come also in terms of packaging, because there's a lot to be packaged. You cannot just rely on computers to package and robots. So people do packaging, they work on supply chains. Now, this is the human factor. They work on the packaging, supply chains, the retail. Even if they don't work totally in factories are totally automated here in Africa, the human factor will come in terms of supply chains. America have tried driverless trucks. It's not working because trucks have to go everywhere. So creating just a lane for trucks is impossible, isn't it? So I was checking somewhere there. It's very impossible. So now what do? You focus on what Africa Africa is good at, isn't it? You focus on what Africa is good at. Agriculture, they have said, once you automate our value additions, first of all, on the farm, you can use machines. You have machines, that's what I'm talking about. Africa versus robots. You have machines on the farm. You have machines in the factories. When it comes to supply chains, human beings. When it comes to the retail, human beings. That's agriculture. Also come in the marketing, human beings. Also have another area that's doing very well in terms of robots, hospitality, hotels, restaurants. In America, I was seeing this nice documentary where they were using robots. They're like waiters, and it's growing. People like robots, and then in the kitchen is humans who are cooking food, isn't it? But that one may not may be very hard here in Africa because people just be eating and going away, isn't it? So hospitality is still human based here in Africa, the way I see it. I don't see robots coming in because of the high levels of poverty. Or even people who have money just go to a restaurant, order food, eat and go away. So which robot will catch? Even if it tries to catch one person, the others will run, isn't it? So that's what I'm talking about. Africans versus robots. Another area is the education. This is more of digital, using digital learning. Although they've said robots can teach children, but people, the safety, a robot may malfunction and even injure the small kids, you understand? So people are not very comfortable with that. Where robots can come in is terms of care for the aged in nursing homes, whereby you can have a robot. It can clean the people who need cleaning. It can look after the older people, look after them. Another is in terms of medical care, you can have robots can move around people who have maybe who are immobile because of injuries, disease. Robots move them up. You can even have dogs which can move around people who are visually challenged. So that robot is programmed. It can lead a person around. It can lead him from point A to point B. You understand? Because the dogs are good, but they may not be able to function in certain areas. Let's say this person is visually impaired, and then there's even a robber. That robot can even defend the person. It can even attack the intruder using whatever weapons they have. So, something like that. It can even take pictures of that intruder. So you understand. So it comes to medical care, the robot can really help. Can really help people. They were saying in terms of medical care. Like now, here in Africa, we have so many contagious diseases like Ebola. So let's say a place has Ebola, and then you take in a robot. It can go and pick up the diseased people who are sick and put them in a vehicle without spreading the infection. Go collect samples. So that will ensure that that robot, once it gets into contact with the contaminated things, it can go to and go to it can go and get this is what they use. It can go and get it can go and get what decontaminated. Let's say it had been contaminated with the pathogens. It can go a place where they get decontamination. This is what I'm forgetting they use, where it goes and then they remove the pathogens and what have you. The doctors and the scientists can tell us, isn't it? So now, once that is done, this robot can be used to the control and prevention of contagious diseases, isn't it? So once that is done, robots can play a major factor in the medical care, in control of diseases, in science, research, security. I've talked about security. Like when you have these terrorism bombs, they can act very well in anti-terrorist. Because at time, a mall in Kenya was attacked and terrorists had hidden themselves. So I was thinking, if you had robots, even a robot dog, and then it's also armed, it can move around and even engage the terrorists because maybe it has armed, so it can move quickly, move. When the terrorist wants to fire back, it can even take him out in seconds. You understand? So they can use it in security, anti-terrorism, checking for bombs, you name it. Those are some of the areas that robots can really help Africa. Another area is in terms of even these things of traffic control. Can have robots in the streets controlling traffic, something like that, so that people, when they see a robot, they behave well on the roads. That's what I'm talking about. So that's what I'm saying, Africa versus robots. So the area of technology has a big potential for Africa that we are not really utilizing. These are some of the things that should be cooperating on. Can we bring in robots to help us in certain sectors so that we catch up to the so-called developed countries? You understand? So that's what I'm saying. Africans versus robots. We have decided to remain in Stone Age because we are thinking for the basics. You see, any society that cannot cover the basics, the Maslow's needs. Remember the way it is, that pyramid. The basics is food, shelter, clothing, medical care. If you have a society that cannot cater for those basic needs I've talked about. Remember the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you have the basic needs going up to those high esteem, those things where the developed countries are, where someone like Elon Musk has all the money in the world, has everything in the world. So he wants to go and conquer Mars, explore Mars. That is self-actualization. Now we want to leave a legacy so that 100 years from now, in the year 21, we're in 2024, maybe the year 2124, people will be remembering Elon Musk like Einstein, those people who came up with brilliant theories. You understand? Galileo, who said that the world is round, and people were saying it's flat, so they decided to execute the man, isn't it? So people will be remembering that it's Elon Musk who made humankind to step on Mars and even conquer, build their settlements. You understand? Now that's self-actualization, where now people go for the topmost. Like you now, young Gen Z watching me. When self-actualization is basic needs, can you food, shelter, clothing, medical care are catered. So whatever revenues you are bringing in, cater for that. Now you move up the ladder. You have a good house. You have business investments. Maybe you have bought even a ranch. You'd say not to buy a ranch of 1,000 acres. Build your house in the middle. Then be self-reliant. You have your own water, your own electricity. You're living off-grid. Just the moment you can live off-grid, it means you're self-actualizing. You are going to the topmost levels. That's self-actualization, isn't it? So that's, if Africa cannot cover the basic needs for its people, then you cannot reach those levels of self-actualization. Artificial intelligence, these are levels of self-actualization that Africans are not seeing, isn't it? So that's why I'm saying Africans versus robots. We have a long way to go. We need to invest in technology. Our universities need to get serious funding, billions of dollars that can go into our universities so that they can invest. They can invest in research, in technology, in advancement, isn't it? That's why I'm talking about Africans versus robots. So this is the Professor Maiman Show. I pray for you watching me that you have a long life, you become rich and prosperous, not only you, your children, grandchildren, and all your generations. Also pray for myself to be rich and prosperous, and all your dreams also to become reality. And those are my prayers. Amen. And if you like what I've said on our channel, you can support us on the mobile M-Pesa down there, +254 769 729 327. Repeat again, mobile M-Pesa, +254 769 729 327. And as I always say, Gwaheri ya kuonana, Gwaheri.